Okay, welcome to Microsoft Flight Center. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. So, today we're at Dunwich Airport on Stradbroke Island. A little bit of a BS story. So last night there was a bit of an emergency. We landed here. Got the plane fixed and I've had too much coffee. I'm going to fly alone back to Brisbane. So we'll get the plane started. Bit of an ordeal, but that's for another video. So battery on, get the APU going. So I've got to wait for 3 seconds. So I'll start IRS. So once that disappears, I can start the second one. And we'll start the APU. And I'll start that. So this is GPS, IRS. So 1, 2, 3. And we've got to wait for the battery, otherwise they stall, I guess. And that gets the GPS to the plane. So outside, APU's going. Little jet engine provides power to start the plane. So that'll start the plane, and we'll turn the oxygen on. That'll start the electronics in the plane. We'll turn the brightness up. This always takes a while. And there it goes. See how much difference the brightness makes. Aircon's on. We'll turn the brightness up here. This is emergency instrument, just in case everything goes down. Okay. So once that's started, we can provide some power to the motor, the engines. So if we go here, that gives 35 psi to each engine. So we can now ignition start and start engine 1, and we'll do the computer. So initialize, clear this warning, and we are going to Brisbane. So Yankee, Bravo, Bravo, November? I don't know. So it's Brisbane, insert, direct, so Brisbane. We want to land at 19 left through Betso, insert, that's fine. Performance, we're going to take off on this short runway with flaps 3, can't go any lower. It's 19 degrees. And that gives us a V1 of 120, 120 VR, 125 V2. So that's what we need to get to take off. Oh, turn the fuel on. Fuel pumps. So that'll get the motors started, engine started. Okay, so once we take off, blah blah blah. When we land, we're going to land with flaps 3. Don't need full flaps. You have to set that up here for landing. We'll turn these off to stop the warnings when we take off. Otherwise, alarms will go off. So the engine's not. the IRS is still not aligned. And you should get a beep. No? Did I miss it? Anyway, start engine 2. That's the beep, say engine 1's available. Start the iPad, flypad. That's a super cub. That's a cub, I think. The iPad actually lowers my frame rate. I shouldn't have done that. Anyway, turn the radar on. I just flick all the switches. And this is the transponder. Basically, air traffic control can see what as we show up on the radar, that gives a identification. Flight director's on, which help with flying. So when we go to Betso, 4,000 meters, 4,000 feet. So that'll be our ceiling. So I'll drop the autopilot down to there. So we've got both engines. So yeah, autopilot 4,000 feet. So okay. So both engines running. We can turn off the APU. Oh, we should turn on all the lights. Beacon, strobe, wing light, logo. Okay, APU's off. That can go off. I think everything's right up here. So that like this plane has sort of been set up with a default configuration, but we don't need much fuel. We've got 9 tons. So we only need about 500 kilos of fuel. So we'll go down to where's that so low? Okay. So 1.4 tons will do. We'll get rid of our payload, so there's no one on board except maybe a bit of baggage. So that'll make it easy to take off. Auto shut down, so that's failed. Anyway, we can clear that. Clear. 1 minute to line. Oh, there we go. We've got map. We can turn on. That's the radar. We can turn on terrain, which we won't see once we're in the air. Alright, so we need to push back. So parking brake off and inbuilt pushback. This is just part of the game, so not realistic, but we have to push back, otherwise we could cause a crash and we don't want to restart the game again. So push back so I can spin around and not hit the wing. That'll do. Right rudder. This joystick is I never push the right way. So down the runway. So this runway is a mod from flightsim.to website. So by default there's nothing here except the runway, so these sheds have been handcrafted in and set up so you can land and take off here. So there's even some kangaroos down here. Go down to the end and we'll push back into the trees. Have a ground speed, so 15 is a bit fast. You don't want to spin around at that fast, otherwise like we'll understeer. So there's the kangaroos. So I'm slowing down. Okay, go this way. Full lock. Get about 40 thrust. Spin around. These planes are pretty good. They spin on a dime. Need to. Very maneuverable. highly recommend rudder pedals for doing this if you're playing lots of games. One less thing to sort of think about. You've got foot control. Get lined up. Go inside so it's a bit quieter. And we want the middle lined up here. So that'll do. And I'll go back outside, push back into the trees, which won't matter if we hit them. Won't cause a collision, but like totally realistic, of course. Procedurally generated terrain, of course. So, but what, 10 meters? It's not going to really help, is it? Alright, that'll do. Handbrake on, parking brake, back inside. Okay, so 120 by the end there. We want flaps 3, so that's full flaps. So flaps 3 gives us more lift. Warnings are off. Lights are on. Okay, so once I take off, I'll use autopilot to get us on our plan. So this is plan here, magenta line. So that's Betso, Stradbroke Island, Moreton Island, Port of Brisbane, Brisbane Airport, Redcliffe. So take a little while to get there, so hopefully we can take off. So what I'll do, full brakes, so that's check, I think we're right. So we'll go half throttle, let the engine settle, and then full throttle, park brake off, stops that, and away we go. 120, should be easy. Keep lined up. And rotate. Gear up. Get a bit of climb. Autopilot. Bring the flaps up. And it looks like we're alright. So we've got the plane back. Insurance company's going to be so happy. Although all the dust through the engines. Anyway, don't tell anyone. So what do we need to do now? So once we get to Betso, we need to set up for approach. And I'll bring the levers back to climb. So the auto throttle will manage the engines for us and maintain set up for 250 knots. So once that's set up, it'll go there. So as we start banking, we'll be able to lower the speed. Put this in nav mode. We can turn off the radar. Or yeah, we'll turn off the radar. Turn the terrain on. Can't quite see the ground. Anyway, so that's Moreton Island coming up. And lots of weather around. Full moon tonight, so cloudy of course. So Betso 4,000, 3,000, Gatu. Okay. flaps are up. We can sand dunes at Morton Island. We will turn the landing lights on and they can stay off. That can go off. That stays on, that's for landing. We'll turn ILS display on, which it's already got. So that's a radio beacon that provides a glide slope to land the plane. Makes life easier for the pilots. So landing lights are on. So they actually drop down into the airflow and create a bit of drag, so every little bit helps for the takeoff. Lots of weather. So as we get around to this bank, we can start slowing down. Quicker than you know it, we'll be landed. Happens so quickly, it's so busy. So there's nothing else to clean up. We can set the speed brake. We never use that. So that'll deploy the spoilers on the wing, slow the plane down. I've got reverse thrust. We can have a look on the map. This constraint button here shows the altitudes at waypoints. So that's so roundabout we need to be 4,000 meters, 3,000 at GAR2 according to the computer. So as we turn, hopefully get a better view. The iPad is sort of used to help with calculations, performance, climbs and descents. And don't open the doors mid-flight, that's pretty bad. Actually lowers the, don't know how to turn it off, lowers my frame rate, so not good. Tangalooma, that's an awesome resort. I've never been there, but I need to go one day once I'm rich. Alright, so we're banking, making this slow turn. Lucky we didn't have to land here. I think that's a shorter runway. Let me know if you want me to try and land an A320. Alright, so we can go engine. Check out. Bleed is like aircon, so we get a bit of heat from the engines. And we can go through all this, but pressurization. The cabin, we're not at a altitude that needs oxygen, but I turned it on anyway, so it's a thing to do. Bring this around to landing. That's ILS display, and that's ILS, that puts ILS there, and that puts ILS there. So we can start slowing down. So we'll take over here. 200 initially. Actually, we'll go 180. And execute. So that has created a target. Was that lightning? That's created a target for the motors, for the engine. So the plane's slowing down, so it'll just idle. So this, putting the throttles at climb, CL is climb, that gives the auto throttle full control. Flex gives maximum, I guess, but this is just sort of a safe. Toga is full power, so that's for go around. So as I come into land, apparently you leave the throttle there the whole flight until 30 feet off the ground. So we should be able to see the runway hopefully soon. That's where we took off from, and in here is probably Brisbane. Okay, I'm going to click approach. And that is invoked the glide slope. It's not locked on, so it's blue. It needs to be green. But this diamond here and that diamond there are what I should be aiming for, so that'll come down as I get closer, and then hopefully the plane will capture and follow, so it'll take over, and that's what this does. As far as I know, not a pilot of course, so pass Betso. And I can't see Otago, so I'm going to lower. Oh no, it looks like we're going down. Yep, it's taken over, glide slope. So I can drop speed, and we can put flaps in. So we go all the way. So that's the maximum speed that I can do with flaps without damaging the aircraft. So we'll lower this down to 160, which is an approach speed, and that's full flaps, but we won't go there, so we'll go there, and that needs to be on for alarms, and activate, confirm. That needs to be green, teal for alarms. This is what I've learnt. This is the fly-by-wire modded airplane, so pretty realistic apparently. So not far to go. We'll get a warning. 2,500. Can't see the runway. It's all good.
2,500.
Autopilot still on. Speed set. Flaps set. Speed brake set. We can lower the landing gear. And that'll, the auto throttle will compensate for the drag of the landing gear. We'll set brakes. I can't select max brakes for some reason. Brake fan. These are carbon brakes, so we need to keep them cool. So I'll get that set up. And over here, so landing gear's down. Flaps are set, not full flaps, otherwise they sort of come out a bit more. And back inside. So once you sort of come down, it's pretty scary if you've never done this before, but 30 feet, I'll pull back on the stick, bring the throttles back to idle, and then touchdown, and then I can reverse thrust, brakes, and bring the plane to a slow taxi speed so we can get into the gates and get the no passengers off board, or me. So hopefully I can do this. There's Brisbane over there. We have a plane on the, looks like we're taking off. That's the port of Brisbane. Container ships don't do that anyway. So we would have had 1,000 foot warning. We'll get 500, 400, 300. It's low tide. I don't know if that's a thing, but that's actually probably what it looks like. We've got wind, 10 knots.
500.
That's the direction. Go off. Alright.
400.
So
300.
30 feet. I'll turn the autopilot off
200.
now.
100.
Throttles back.
50. 40.
30.
30. 20.
Let the plane settle. Too much.
20.
Come on.
10. 5.
Brakes. Reverse thrust. And we'll exit. So that stopped real quickly because they're so light. Slow down a bit more. Bring the flaps up. Reset the spoilers. Slow down a lot more. We'll go over here. So this is the domestic terminal. Domestic terminal, international. It's an A320. Probably going a bit too fast. And this guy's playing chicken. But we'll follow the yellow lines. Totally glanced him. So we're going to follow yellow line. And you sort of put the line underneath you. And I guess we'll just go in here. These are probably not for me. I don't know where you stop. It's probably for actually it's probably for bigger planes, but that's the spoilers, so that slows the plane down. Flaps are up. Take the spoilers down. Flaps are not up. Okay, park brake. So ordinarily I'll start the APU and get everything going, but if I just flick these, it'll end the flight. And we didn't get a takeoff or a landing, but it's still registered where we went from. Very quick flight. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll catch you next time.